and you make it your own. Well, my current Book of Shadows here is still in the works, but it's actually my Bible, my personal Bible. Now, I don't plagiarize anymore. All the information I'm actually bestowed upon actually comes through my head, and it's weird, and it's abstract, and there's a lot of it, and none of it is story. None of it is story. It's all just insight and intellect and knowledge. But when it comes to like the weirdness of how I wanted to do such things as a child and how I have to actually bridge gaps in this reality, it makes me feel a lot more important to Mr. Anderson. A lot more important to Mr. Anderson. Quite a lot more important. Now, honestly, when I was a child and we'd have these arguments, I was emotionally in love with the arguments me and Mr. Anderson would have. Emotionally in love with it. Because I actually considered him quite a really good friend, even though we never agreed at all. And I loved it because it was like the best emotional empathy of quite an intellectual design that we just both understood each other. We both just understood each other. And I didn't know over time I actually would be Christian, because afterward, when I was practicing Wicca, my mom even took me to witchcraft stores in Gainesville, Florida. She'd take me to witchcraft stores and I would actually practice the Sabbats with the Wiccans. And it was like the most abstract experience, because I didn't expect my mom to be so like open-minded on that kind of stuff. And I loved it because I was like, there's no way my mom is evil then. There's no way my mom is evil if I'm also getting the opportunity to feel good about myself and then come back to school and encounter argument with someone who knows better, knows significantly more, but just plays along too. So one day, a character slowly appears into our life, and then he becomes a permanent placement in my life, actually. And his name actually rhymes with the circumstances in which something whispered a breath into the air of the universe that said, the dean should work. And that's exactly what they did. That's exactly what it said. And that's exactly how I believe it was done. And they spoke the breath into the air, and that character came to be. And he slowly started coming into circumstances where me and Mr. Pastor Anderson would have these arguments every day. And eventually, that kid becomes a little bit more of a secondary character. Like, not normally there, but he gets interested. So from a child mindset, he was just getting interested in our argument every day. He was wondering what was going on. Because he would actually go and he would tailgate Mr. Anderson afterwards because he followed his faith, and I was 100% content with that. I didn't get along with him. I didn't understand him. However, like one day, he had finally just rubbed me too raw. Like he would call me a devil worshiper right to my core. He would point at me like, you were a devil worshiper. I'm like, I practiced Wicca in a middle school where my mama lets me, and I was already baptized. So it was like, I just kind of think it's hokey to a little bit, and I would pretend that I could float if my little brother and our friends would want to pretend we could do light as a feather, stiff as a board. Literally, I would pretend. I would actually shift my weight from like my shoulder blade to the heel of my foot, just so I could convince my little brother and his friends that I was magical. And they believe me, still to this date. They still believe me. And it's funny because I'm trying to I was like, that wasn't real, right? But they still believe me. And then I'm like, maybe I really did. And it was a moment in my life where I was supposed to not believe because I wasn't supposed to. But instead, it actually gifted me the opportunity to truly believe. Now, I actually found out through Christ. That's actually where I get all my magic from, because there's plenty of witches. There's plenty of witches in the world. And witches are actually just people who have fallen from faith, are looking for something to grasp onto, and have given up hope. Those are true witches. And a real witch is spelled Witchkh. That is actually how you definitively spell a true witch. You don't pronounce the K because they shouldn't be okay with it. They shouldn't, in fact. But that's the true nature of how a witch should actually be spelled. Because the simplicity of just the CK is actually to pluck, or to strike, or to attack. CK is inevitably supposed to be a point. It's supposed to be pointing fingers. It's supposed to be pointing fingers. Instead of actually pointing fingers at people and calling them devil worshippers, we're supposed to use our noggins. We're supposed to use our mindsets. We're supposed to assist. We're supposed to not ring the cowbell outside an apartment in New York City. Now, this dean should work. Gifted me 2 opportunities that if I don't tell you about them, then inevitably it just makes me look like an asshole. For one day when he finally rubbed me a little too raw about the circumstances, he would come up to me and he'd be like, well, you're a devil worshiper. And I would just accept it. And I'll just accept it and I'm like, no, I'm not. And then me and Mr. Anderson would continue our counter argument every single day around the track, just walking the track, walking the loop continuously every single day. And then we would just define all the reasons as to why I wasn't a devil worshiper. The problem is that now that Dean was a character in the circumstances, he would interrupt. He would interrupt and just be like, no, you're a devil worshiper. And I'm like, that breaks my heart, dude. Me and Mr. Anderson, I thought we had a thing. I thought he was my friend. And then this third character who also comes up through the woodwork for such a circumstance sides with the guy and then pulls him away from my life by being all like, well, you are a devil worshiper. Finally, one day I had enough. I wasn't feeling well. I was upset. I was lonely. It was probably actually the same day I probably had one of those dreams and cried to Christ, honestly. I don't know. I was too young. However, I was like, not today, Dean. Not today, Dean. Not today, Dean. Not today, Dean. And he's like, but you are. And then I just backhand a little shit. I just whiplash a little fucker. Like, he's standing behind me because I refused to in that moment even acknowledge him. And then Mr. Anderson was walking with me and he's like, but you are. And I just backhand the shit out of him. And then immediately he's trying to kick my ass. Well, he's threatening to, but something pulls him away and immediately has him go alert the physical evaluation instructor. Well, our PE coach gets mad at me and I get 3 days in school suspension. That's an abstract way of him calling me an ass, and I didn't know that in the moment, but he also didn't know that in the moment either, because that's one of my angel numbers and actually how I talk about angel numbers in my book. This book will be free, by the way. I'll have printings of it everywhere. But the thing that was most important about the circumstances is, for one, the dean of our school had like the fattest dumpy booty. Like, oh my God. But it was unrealistically big. Like, almost like an apple bottom in jeans. And like, I thought the dude, honestly, was attractive, and I was a middle school student. And I'm like, but everything about his ass was just not. It was literally like if someone had put a horse and attached it to a man. And I was uncomfortable with that, and everyone would make fun of him for it. But I had a weird infatuation to him about it. And I didn't like it, and I never really spoke with the man either. I might have said hi in passing because I was such a little friendly little goody two-shoes. But after getting dial-up internet in my home, and then also being able to be aware of such circumstances, something somewhere before my timeline ever existed, something whispered, Dean should work. The Dean should work. And then it created a character of false identity whom came out of the sticks, called me the devil, and then also the Dean was my first physical attraction to a man. My first one. Like, my first one. I would be a liar to say otherwise. Even though my dreams were actually about my friends of my mutual age group, the actual attraction I had was for the dean of the school. And then they switched him out, in fact. But it just goes to show really how people will play a part in your reality and make you feel like an inferior your entire life just to go ahead and really feel like the superior. However, I'm the messiah of the new universe for a reason. We've got a lot of transgenders who need to be respected and appreciated. We got a lot of lesbians that for some reason the Spanish are calling mariposas. Well, mariposa is Spanish for butterfly, supposedly. And I believe that because I like Spanish people a lot. I do, in fact. But mariposa, if I break down the word down to very, very simplistically, it sounds like Maddie is a poser. And I'm cool with that too, because everyone wants to assume as such. But I had a butterfly come in my window this morning. And I'd like to believe that women all are bestowed an opportunity where they can be a butterfly or they can be a poser. I like to pose. Have you not been seeing me doing it this whole time? I'm sorry. I think I'm cute. I think Christ thinks I'm cute. It's disgusting, right? But adorable is just a flavor. Now, that never actually resolved all universes, though. Because I now live in a universe where, for some reason, it isn't actually real. It feels like one of those stages, like Shakespeare. Like the whole world's a stage. I state it's 333 meters or less. Authentically. Because I do believe in angel numbers, and I believe that 333 is effectively the authentic devil, because it's just three horns constantly, and if it isn't three horns, it looks like three asses just running away. And that's it. It's like a parade of douchebaggery. That's the devil to me. That's like a human centipede. And so, well, where do we go from here?